In my quest to make the most of the iPhone 16 Pro as a tool for professional photo and video, I was really excited to hear about Insta360 releasing the new Flow 2 Pro. It's a mobile gimbal and it's made with some special features for iPhone, like Apple's DockKit, but it also works with Android. And I've used a few Insta360 gimbals in the past, but the upgrades and updates on the Flow 2 Pro are something we really need to talk about. So let's dive in and check it out. So first, let's cover the basics. The Insta360 Flow 2 Pro is a small, easy-to-use gimbal that can unfold and then also fold back up and fit right back in your pocket. It's a 3-axis gimbal, has 360 degrees rotation, also has a built-in tripod, and it has some incredible tracking features built into it. And it starts at $160, but there are some other accessories you can get added to it. You can see we have the magnetic iPhone mount on here, which is a nice addition, but might not be the right thing for you in all situations. We'll talk about that a little bit further on. It comes with the standard expandable clip that can fit a variety of phones, and then you can also get this light that will attach, see if I can find it, right here on the side, and then it has some buttons on it if you want to control that for white balance and also for brightness. So a nice little feature for creators who want a little bit extra light beyond what you can get from your phone. But just as the gimbal itself, it comes with this standard magnetic clip and the gimbal, but there's a lot going on here with just the gimbal itself. And what's really exciting for me is that I can tell from using some previous generations of Insta360 gimbals that they are refining this design and making some really cool improvements here. The tripod that's built into the handle, for example, is, very sleek. You wouldn't even know it was there without actually pulling these little feet out. And that just, it makes it so much easier to use, and it's not an extra piece you have to screw on here like some other gimbals I've used in the past. The shape itself is more ergonomic. The buttons on here are very easy to find, easy to use, a nice, easy to use thumbstick with some nice resistance in there so I don't feel like I'm accidentally activating it when I don't intend to. And there are other small things like this little mirrored finish on the back of the motor up here, which kind of makes it a little more useful in selfie mode, so you can kind of see yourself a little bit, at least have an idea without, having the screen facing you. So some really cool features and thoughtful design things built in here. And one more note on the tripod, if you don't want to use these built-in legs, there is a little 1/4-20 thread here on the bottom, so you can put it on some other mount or, a bigger tripod or something else very easily with that. And speaking of selfies and the mirror, this also extends about 6.5 inches, so you can get into a more selfie mode. And there is a little pivot right here. It will hinge, and so you can adjust the angle. We'll talk about the full, rotation, because you can't quite get a super big rotation when it comes to this axis. We'll talk about that in the future a little bit, but having this pivot up here helps for those kind of selfie mode scenarios. And we'll just get it back, bring it back down, and then it can fit back in my pocket again. I will show again, how easy this is to get set up and going. So, unlike some of the previous generations, all you have to do, we'll get it all folded up here. I'll even use the standard clip. This is what comes with it. Just magnetic mounts on there. Actually, the first thing you'd probably want to do is put it on your phone. And I was mentioning how the magnetic mount might not be the best scenario for every single use case, and that's because you can't really dial in where it is on the magnet. So if you have, say, the DJI mic, plugged in down here, a receiver, that'll add some weight to the bottom, and that would throw off the balance if you didn't have the ability to adjust this. Likewise, if you have a large filter on top here or some other accessories added to this, being able to adjust where this magnetic mounting point is going to be helpful, because just like any other gimbal, having it as centered and as balanced as possible is going to yield the best results. So we'll show what this looks like with the standard mount here. We've got that on there. This is turned off. All you have to do, clip that on, unfold it, and just like that, it's ready to go. That's all you have to do to get up and running with this. And another cool feature on here is that it has DockKit support from Apple. So what that means, basically, through a bunch of different apps, you can enable tracking with the gimbal, not just within the Insta360 app, but even within the native camera app. And they say with like 200 plus different apps on iOS. So all I have to do to get that set up is you hold your NFC reader near the top here, and it will pop up and get it connected, and then it works pretty well in my experience. Like I said, it will work in the native camera app. The only issue I've had with that, or I guess maybe it's not an issue, the only thing I've noticed is that the only subjects it will track are human subjects. I guess I haven't tried a pet, but it's not like you can select some random object in your room or in your scene and have it track that. There is this green ring up here that will turn green when tracking is enabled. You can enable and disable it with the trigger here in front, and then it will start flashing green when a subject is found and it is tracking it. So you can see as I move the gimbal around, it's flashing green, and the gimbal is pivoting to keep my face in the frame. But beyond just tracking in the camera app, the Insta360 app has a ton of different tracking modes and features built into it. From within the app, you can highlight any subject by drawing a box around it with your finger, and the gimbal will track it, and it even does a pretty good job when subjects become obstructed by other obstacles in the foreground. There's a specific tripod tracking mode, active zoom tracking, and a pro framing grid that lets you select from a grid of 9 dots which point you would like the subject to be framed in, making it easy to show off things in the background. And beyond tracking, the Insta360 app has quite a few different features like color filters, face altering filters like smoothing, jaw, and nose slimming, and even making your eyes larger. And it can get a little out of hand in my opinion. You also have manual control of the camera settings for a more professional look if you want to control shutter speed, white balance, and so on. And if you've used any other Insta360 camera, then you also know that within that app, there are pretty deep, robust editing tools as well, so you can edit your clips together right from within the app. And it has templates and kind of automatic systems that will put together a quick edit for you if you just want a quick highlight reel for social media. So let's dig in a little bit more into the use. I want to show off the controls and the range of motion. So first, talking about range of motion, one of the big features here has 360-degree panning. So that's great if you are moving around anywhere. This thing will track you as you move through a space. And then when it comes to roll, it will roll, was it 495 degrees? So you can see it kind of stops there. But if you go the other way, it'll do a full rotation and then some. So this enables you to do some interesting things. They have, specific modes that take advantage of that ability. And we'll center it back up here. And then the only issue I have when it comes to range of motion is the actual tilt. That's as far up as it will go, and that's as far down as it will go. Now there is a workaround for that tilt limitation. So what you can do, it basically transfers that limit to a different axis. But if you extend the selfie stick out a little bit, you grab the gimbal arm with your hand, and then you rotate it 90 degrees, and then you grab this again and rotate it 90 degrees again. There is a little thing on the side that says off or on, and as long as that is in the on position, it's in a free tilt mode. So with it in that mode, basically it transfers that 360 degree pan axis to the tilt. And so you can tilt freely with this and it will go anywhere. And so this enables you to do some, like crane shots if you're trying to do some big movements and bring the camera up and down, and some really interesting things you can do with that. But you cannot go into the FPV mode, which would allow rolling the camera or anything like that. And if we tilt it left to right, you can see it kind of has some limitations there. Okay, it seems to do okay underhand, but if you try to bring it back up, there's a little bit of an issue there. So it just has some different limitations than what the standard mode does. But it's easy enough to put it in and out of that mode if there is a specific shooting scenario where you think that would be useful. Just like that, we're back into the normal mode. So taking a look at the controls, I've left a lot of the documentation on here. They have little stickers that you could remove if you wanted to, but they tell you how to use it. And so we have 4 buttons here on the front with a jog wheel on the outside. And the 4 buttons can do different things like start and stop recording or take photos. This button here on the right will swap between your back or front facing camera. And if you double tap it, it will go back and forth between landscape and horizontal, or landscape and portrait. And then the button at the bottom will change your follow modes. So this is where you can do, if you want it to keep the horizon level, you can have it on one of those modes. Or if you want more control, you can do like the FPV mode where it will follow all of your movements up, down, left, and right, no matter what you're doing, and just kind of smooth everything out. So that's where you can play around with that and choose your mode. By default, the jog wheel on here, when you are in this mode, will control the angle of it. But when you are in like one of the pan follow modes, it can control zoom. So you can manually move the zoom in and out with that wheel, making it nice and easy right at your thumb. The trigger on front here, one tap will enable or disable tracking, and you can tell with the green light on here whether or not that's enabled. 2 taps will recenter the camera, so if you got it all out of whack, off to the side and pointing down, 2 taps and it'll go back to the middle, and then 3 taps will put it in selfie mode. So you can quickly go back and forth between front and back, and you can change the mode there very easily. Additionally, there is a power in USB-C here for recharging it, and it has a 10-hour battery, which should be great for most uses. Should be able to film most of the day, I would think, with that. And then it also has a USB out up here, so you can use this for charging a device if you need to in an emergency, or that also works for powering the LED light that gets plugged in up here. So in my experience, in my testing, I've been really impressed with the tracking this can do. What do they call it? Their Deep Track 4.0. I do think it is pretty effective. Of course, if you're trying really hard to move back and forth, you can kind of juke it and confuse it by very rapidly changing position. But for the most part, I think it works pretty well. In all honesty, it feels very similar to the Link 2 that we've been testing and have set up as a webcam. That gimbal and how it works and all of the tracking feels very similar to this. And stabilization from a gimbal is one thing, but iPhones have become very good at stabilizing video and photos by themselves. So, do you need this gimbal? It helps in certain scenarios, but I do think that the big selling feature here is that tracking compatibility. With the DockKit, you can track in a ton of different apps. You can use it in FaceTime, you can use it in your camera, you can use it in other, reel creating apps like Instagram. But then of course there are, really deep tracking tools built within the Insta360 app. And I do think that's what kind of sets this apart and makes it a really incredibly powerful tool for creators. Occasionally when I am powering this thing up for the first time, it kind of feels like the camera is tilted a little bit, like it isn't quite 100%, the horizon isn't level, but that is something you can adjust from within the Insta360 app. So if you open it up and you feel like things are just a little bit tilted, head into the app and make that adjustment. You can do it by, tenths of a degree, and you can change what that horizon level is to get it dialed in for your situation. So for the solo creator who wants to maximize the potential of their iPhone, or basically have a little camera crew that can follow you around as you move through an area, the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro is a great tool for that. I'm building out a little mobile camera kit, and this is definitely going to be one of my essential tools for that, including filters and microphone and cages and other accessories. But having this device that can track me and follow me through a scene is going to be a game changer as well. So let me know what you think about it down in the comments below, and check out these relevant videos for some more from 9 to 5 Mac.